and we are very proud of the impact it has been causing. So now we wanted to make this technology available to people so that everybody can have the access to this technology. So instead of that, while we continue to do our various seminars online and otherwise, we thought we will also design a short seminar series where people, even though they may or may not be able to participate with us in our big programs, they can get a taste of this technology, right? And they can benefit from that. So with that intention, we are starting the series, and today's session is going to be called the missing piece in leadership, and then we'll be also doing some other topics leveraging the principles of theory U. Okay, so that's the starting point. Anybody needs to say something or ask something, you can feel free to do so. We would prefer that you unmute and speak whenever you want to, but in case you prefer to send messages on chat, you might do that. We may not be very prompt on chat, but you're always free to use both mechanisms. You can use the chat, you can use the just unmute and speak up. So this is going to be a small group, so, and we have been more accustomed to the interactive conversations. So just feel free to unmute and speak up. Okay, and most of you have registered on Eventbrite, and if you did register on Eventbrite, you might have received a meeting invite, a calendar invite, and you might have received one document like a worksheet, right? So how many of you received the worksheet? If you can raise your hand. Okay, great, thank you much. Thank you. Okay, so before we go ahead, just take a second and on the chat, respond.
Sir, where you have given the worksheet?
It is in the email that you would have received. It is in the email that you would have received in the meeting invite. Okay. And Vivek, if you want, you can post the worksheet also here in Zoom. Right? If somebody has access to computer, if they're on computer, they can download it right now. But if you don't have the worksheet, don't worry. You will be still able to engage fully in the conversation. So before we go ahead, just to get a sense of the profile of people here, if you can just write down in chat how you would identify yourself professionally, like entrepreneur or a consultant or a educationist or whatever way you would identify yourself. Okay, if you can do that, that would be great. And if you would like to mention your city, that would be additionally great. So just a couple of seconds to do that, please. Okay, Veera, welcome. Okay, L&D professionals, micro business owner, okay, sales leader, thank you, entrepreneur, coach, okay, good, educationist, barrister, okay, entrepreneurs, Delhi, Pune, Chennai, Delhi, a couple of people from Delhi, good, okay, Bombay, Lagos, yeah, Piyush, great. Insurance, okay, great, fantastic, fantastic. And if you were do one more thing for me, if you can write what interested you to attend today's session. Okay? And don't worry, we're not going to do too much of work on the chat, but if you can just write one more thing, what interested you to attend today's session. Okay, that would be great. Premas, the topic, okay. Okay, so mostly is the topic that I can see in the chat. Okay. Leveraging the knowledge while coaching the clients, perfect. Right. Okay, Prakash, welcome from the back landmark days. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. And one more time, I am requesting. We might request you a couple of times to put your videos on because we prefer to interact that way. You still continue to choose to put your videos off. That is okay. Don't get bothered about by our request, but it is always great for us to see and interact with you. Okay, so the way let's jump in the conversation. We're going to touch upon a couple of key principles that we talk in our workshops and we talk in our consulting. And of course, we in the short time we won't be able to go deep into those conversations, but we want to explore them enough that if you engage with them on your own, or if you engage with them with other people, your friends, clients, I think every time you engage with those principles, you might get some value for yourself. Okay. Yeah, it might be great if you have paper or pen or some device for you to capture some of the thoughts that you would like to capture. So that would be great if you do that. Okay, so I intend to address approximately 6 topics here, 6 points, some small, some big, but which are all connected to what we are calling as the missing piece in leadership. Okay, and the first thing that I have been reflecting on in the last 5 years is that most of our management learning, leadership learning, entrepreneur learning is around learning from the past. What has worked in the past, what has been the success formula, what has been the, of course, the management principles and theories and a lot of things, but mostly it has been oriented from the past, which is good, and all of us have benefited from that, so no question of that. But at the same time, there is a challenge, and the challenge is that I don't think any industry right now looks the way it used to look 5-7 years back. And I don't think any industry in the future is going to look, after 5 years or 7 years, is going to look the way it is looking right now. So if we are referencing on the past beyond some level, I think it's not going to work. So there is a need that over and above learning from the past, we need to develop some skills of learning from the future. So that's the first point I want to kind of bring in. There's a need to develop competencies to learn from the future versus just learning from the past. Okay, does that make sense to you? Somebody wants to respond on that? Either you can unmute and respond, or you can uh, chat and respond. I mean, if you see the need to learn from some other place beyond the past. Like, okay, thank you.
This is Sunanda. I think that's more true today than ever before.
Yes.
Because the past, as we know it, has ceased to exist, and it is not likely to come back in its, in any
Entirely.
form,
Yeah.
in the future. So we are right now dealing with actually a blank slate, which I don't think anybody can say what the future is going to look like.
Yes.
Correct. Actually, Manoj, that is what I was also trying to say. When you say learn from the future, we don't know what the future looks like.
Do that. Yeah.
What the future looks like.
Yes.
It will be a presumption.
Yes. So you're right. So I'm going to go a little deeper here, Ashok. Thanks. And as such, change was there, but I think COVID has just accelerated the change for everybody, and the disruption just got kind of magnified. So building on what Ashok said is, one is, of course, we understand that learning from the past or focusing on the past is not sufficient, but how do we learn from the future, given that future hasn't happened and whatever we assume may not be what will happen, right? So we have a little different terminology for that. We call it learning from the future that wants to emerge. Okay? And it's not about that you know what's the future. It's every moment it's going to keep emerging, right? And as it is emerging, how do you keep connecting to it? Now, why is it critical? Because if you look back a little bit, you will see there have been many successful companies, many successful people, extraordinarily successful, globally successful, industry champions, and all of them, or many of them, at some time got into trouble. And why they got into trouble is not because they didn't have the management competencies or the financial capabilities or other things, but I think they got into trouble, many of them, because they got obsessed with their vision. They got obsessed with the future and the plans and the dreams that they had. Oh, we want to bring in these new products. We want to bring in this new technology. We want to take the world in this way. But you know what? The world doesn't care about all of those plans. The future doesn't care about all of our plans. The future will emerge. And like Ferdy says, it's like a wave in the ocean. It will come. And if you can sense the wave at the right time, you can surf and have a great time. Otherwise, the wave will still come and you're going to get disrupted. Just because you're not looking at the wave or you're not tuned into the wave doesn't save you. Right? So, Ashok, it is an important dimension that inside of the uncertainty of whatever future is going to emerge, how do you keep listening, keep tuning into that? Right? And that's an important part. And that's one thing that I want to kind of park at this moment here. We'll come back to all these principles as we go ahead. But the first principle that I wanted to put it as a pillar in our conversation is learning from the future as it emerges. Okay. So that's the point number one that I want to make today. And let me go to point number two, which is, I think, can be transformational for most of us. The point number two is, in short, called ego to eco. And what I mean by ego here is boundary in our thinking. So when I look at in a company, when I'm looking at me, it's a boundary. My department, it's a boundary. When I look at my company itself is a boundary. And in the same way, family wise or otherwise, we can see that we are all programmed to think inside of boundaries. For most of us, the way the world teaches success is also in terms of boundary, in terms of ego. The whole growth that companies and everybody go crazy about, it's all inside of this boundary called ego. And I think that paradigm of ego oriented leadership, ego oriented success, the boundary like, oh, I care about these people being successful, I don't give a damn about remaining people on the planet. That's what I mean when I say boundary. Right? Oh, I want my company, my employees, and my team and my investors to be successful, and everybody else, okay, God will take care of them. So that is the old 20th century maybe way of working, but I don't see that working in the future. And what is required is the shift to an eco thinking. So what do we mean by eco here? So connecting to the root word, which is from Greek or Latin, I think it's Greek. Eco comes from the understanding of the whole, like a house. Right? And the words economics and ecology and all of those come from there. And if you connect it to the Indian culture, we used to say Vasudeva Kutubakam, which means the whole world is family. And how do you do business, smart business, better business, when by shifting your thinking from the ego to the eco? So that's the second principle that we want to address today. Okay. So before we go ahead into the other principles, I just want to kind of pause here and see if you have any questions or comments about the two principles that we just talked about? So one is I talked about learning from the future as it emerges, and the second one I talked about is shifting from ego to ego. Okay, so let's see if you would like to say something, ask something. You can unmute and speak up, or you might respond on chat. Anybody? All clear? Wow, that's
Slight,
surprising.
slight clarity needed on ego to eco.
Right.
Not very clear.
So when you are planning business, right? When you're looking at business, uh, you're looking from certain place, right? Okay, that this is what I should get, what my client should get, right? What my employee should get. You're designing your business from that perspective, right, Ashok? Okay. What is the other place from where you can look at? And how could you, like, if you start looking from, okay, what is the biggest difference my business can make on the planet? Right? With
Okay.
whatever I am doing in, with whatever expertise we are in, and what is the biggest difference that's possible on the planet? And when we look at what in a smaller spectrum, the whole game gets limited like that. The kind of people who associate with us, the kind of people who play with us, all gets limited inside of that. But when you start thinking from a bigger perspective, then the kind of people you can partner with, collaborate with, that also shifts. Because it's not only about success for some, but it is actually making a difference for many, right? Let me also invite a couple of people here. So we have a couple of people here who, over and above the faculty, who have also participated in our workshops, and this series of sessions are also expected to be like a refresher for them. So if any one of you would like to also add in your own experience or learning from this, specifically from these two principles, right? From learning from the future as it wants to emerge, or ego to eco, you can do that. So unmute and do that. Okay. So graduates of the leadership from the emerging future, this is also an opportunity for you to chip in if you'd like to do that. Anybody?
And remember what I said in my WhatsApp message to everyone, that when you make an attempt to share something, you realize that you have difficulty articulating it. But as you articulate it, it becomes clearer and sharper for yourself and deeper for yourself. So it's not that you can, we would strongly invite a few of you to share, because it'll make a difference to you and make a difference to the other people. So how do you understand, or how does ego to eco, how has it impacted you? What has it shifted for you? Or what was the other thing, Manoj, you were
Learning
speaking
from
about?
the future
Learning from the future.
as it
How
emerges.
did you engage with that? What did you see for yourself when doing that? Okay, so somebody be brave enough to jump in feet first. Yes,
I'll go
Basava.
first. But
Oh, sorry, Basava had his hand up, and then we'll have you, Chaitanya.
Chaitanya. Okay.
Sorry,
hello.
Manoj, you should be directing this.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
jump in.
Sure,
After doing this LFEF course, I deeply connected with the ego to eco, so that we were able to do shift from ego to eco, and in a village, a big 75 wells were created, and the entire village was deeply connected with groundwater now, called Kadvigare in one of the taluk of the Davangere district. That we did. And now we are seriously, Karuna Jiva Kalyana Trust is working on establishing branches throughout Karnataka, 226 taluks. Now we are working effectively in Davangere and neighboring districts. So this was all possible because earlier we were looking only from myself or Corona Trust's point of view, now we are collaborating, co-creating, and opened up with many people, Swamiji's leaders or NGOs like that. Because of shifting to eco, this was possible. And also
Fantastic.
learning from the future is very, very important subject, because as the situation emerges, we respond immediately, uh, uh, considering the situation there, not reacting from the past, but responding right then and there, on the spot. So that is also a great learning. So we took many incentives on the spot, whatever needed at that moment. For example, recently we distributed food in Davangere to 250 people per day. That was all done as the necessity arose because of the lockdown due to Corona. Like this coaching of LFEF has impacted greatly on our organization. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Basava. And as most of you would have realized that Basava is working with an NGO. He's heading an NGO called Karuna Trust, and it is based in Davangere in Karnataka, India. Thanks, Basava. And
Thank you.
Chaitanya, did you want to share?
Yes, Manoj, thank you. For me,
And you can say one line about yourself and where you are.
Yeah. So my name is Chaitanya Aingar. I am an entrepreneur and a marketing consultant. I'm based in London, UK. So I finished the LFEF course just about a month ago. The biggest thing what I got was I really got aligned to my purpose and my work. So till now, I've been looking at what is my experience, what's my background, and operating from there. So the biggest shift happened when I looked from, moving from ego to eco. So I started looking at, what does the world need and how can I actually make a difference? And I was able to clearly articulate my purpose, which is to make a difference and contribute and create an impact such that I transform individuals and organizations to make a difference in the world itself. So what emerged out of that was an opportunity to create a fund which will invest in businesses and social enterprises who are committed to contributing and making a difference. So I'm currently in the process of prototyping it and working with a couple of people to create a fund before the end of this year. So that's been a big revelation, and I'm really inspired and I'm actually alive.
Good.
So,
Thank you very much, Chaitanya.
This is Sanjay. I haven't gone to the course, but what resonates with me is the concept of Veshti and Samashti.
Right.
Which is basically the total mind, the individual mind and the total mind.
Yes.
So once the individuality is given up, what I see is the ego gets dropped and the boundaries melt, and there is only one common shared vision, and there's only one result that we are all aiming at. Everything good remains the same, but the malices, I won't call it malices, but the ego, the word ego comes, that melts. So we have only the collective interest left. So basically the Veshti Samashti concept, or the Pragya concept, the Tejas concept, you get it. What I'm saying is, the whole total mind concept kicks off, and if that comes in, and then probably many wonders will start happening, which is the goal, one day or the other. So I think it started resonating with me from that point of view.
Perfect. Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks for sharing that.
I'm Dr. Kalindi Bhatt.
Yes,
My doctoral research is in spirituality climate and its impact on group learning behaviors. So, in the spirituality climate, one of the elements is transcendence, and transcendence is going beyond self.
Yes.
So when you operate from transcendence perspective, this resonates with me when you're talking about from ego to ego.
Yes.
So, thank you for this.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And let me go ahead and touch upon a couple of other dimensions. The third dimension I want to touch upon is a concept that we call turning the camera around. So mostly we are looking outside. Like we are looking at people, we are looking at business, we are looking at the world, and we are planning everything. Right? All our strategies, all our game plans, vision, everything is from how we look outside and what we see. Turning the camera around again is a transformational moment or moments for many of us. Is when you actually shift from looking outside to going out and looking at ourselves from the eyes of other people. So when you look at yourself from the eyes of your customers, when you look at yourself from the eyes of your employees, when you look at yourself from the eyes of the society, right? You start seeing a different world altogether. And this concept emerged in our discussions when from Otto Sharma's conversation, where he shows a video about Apollo 8, where the astronauts had were going to the moon, and at some time, while they did not land on the moon, at some time they turned the camera around, and for the first time, people saw Earth. Right? Till then, the whole focus was going to the moon, going to the moon, going to the moon. But in that moment, for the first time, they saw Earth as hanging in the space. And the analogy here is like we are all focused on what we see outside, what we want to create outside, and all that. But there is also a different dimension that opens up when you start looking from how do we show up for customers. I know we think we already know all of that, but when you actually start doing those exercises, we have a couple of exercises that all of this, what we are talking about, is supported by a lot of tools and exercises. So we have some exercises which help you to see, okay, how do your employees see you, and how do your customers see you, and how do your other stakeholders see you? And they don't see you only as individuals; they see you as individuals inside of a company, inside of a lot of other background, their own background, your background, a lot of other things play in how you show up for them. So it's like you're part of a system, not just in isolation. So one good inquiry that you could continue and maybe interact with your stakeholders after this workshop and in the next couple of weeks is actually starting to explain how do they see us, how do the stakeholders see us, right? It could be family, it could be uh, extended family, friends, and of course colleagues, seniors, juniors, cross department. Always interesting how it shows up when you talk cross departments and cross SBOs, right? And of course, suppliers and customers and all that world. So that's the point number 3 that I wanted to touch upon, turning the camera around. Okay. And now I want to come to a very critical one. Uh, Point number 4 is what we call as the blind spot of leadership. Okay. And actually the name of our topic was also inspired by this. And there is a quote by Brian Arthur, late CEO of Hanover Insurance. He said something like this: the success of the intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. Okay. Vivek, can you do me a favor? Can you capture this on the chat?
Yeah.
The success of the intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. So what it means is the success of my project, success of my initiative, success of my business, whatever I am taking on, depends on my interior condition. And same thing applies to you in your case, right? And sometimes if it is a team project, then it applies to the interior condition of the team. Okay, so we are going to go a little deeper into what we mean by this interior condition. Right? But I hope you could capture, right? So I'll repeat it one more time and then we'll go deeper. The success of the intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. Okay, so what are this? What is this interior condition? This interior condition, we say that it has three components or three dimensions, you can say. The first dimension is intention. What is your intention? Right? You can say, give me some other words for intention. You can write in your chat or you can unmute and speak up. What is the other word for intention?
Motive.
Motive, yeah.
Purpose,
Purpose, yes.
aim,
Strong will.
And yeah, you can also say like your objective, your
Good expectation.
yeah, you're including your, if you come little transactional, you could even say your goal and your projects. And if you go little contextual,
End result.
your vision and your purpose and anything like that, right? Does that make sense? Again, most people's videos are off, so I don't know how is this landing for you. Okay, so you okay. Take a minute and in the chat, if you can respond right now. What is the as a leader? What is the intention that you're working on? What is the objective that you're working on? Okay, as a leader in your life, right? So if you can write it down in the chat. If you want to unmute and speak up, that is also great. If you want to write on the chat, do that. Okay, what is your intention? What is the objective that you're working on? Take a minute and do that, please. Turn around the business, become successful, inspire others, execute and define objectives. Thank you. Oh, contribute to women empowerment, choosing right goals. Okay, steer team through uncertainty. Okay, good, very good. Couple of seconds more. Okay, great. Thank you very much for doing that. So you could say that intention is not a powerful force. Intention is the only force. Okay. So if you think about it for a minute, in your life, you have intentions, and consider that that intention is not a powerful force, but it is the only force. Like that's the source, right? That's everything. Right? Then the question that you can look at here is it a ego intention or is it an eco intention? Is it about some people or is it all inclusive? Is it for the larger good or is it for the good of some people? Right? So that's a choice as a leader you always make. Okay? So one dimension of this internal state or interior state is intention, right? I'll just capture it here. The dimensions of the first one is intention. Okay. The second one is attention. Again, very important. Many of us have great intentions in life, right? For our personal life, we have a lot of positive intentions for our family, for our work, for the contribution we want to make on the planet. We have a lot of good intentions. But then the next question that comes up is, but where is your attention? How much part of your time in a day are you able to put your attention on your intention? Because we have a lot of distractions in life. All the thoughts, right, about us, about what we should have done, what others could have done, right? Judgment, evaluations, and fears. So there are a lot of distractions. Plus, add to the distraction of our routine life, compounded by the social media. So, uh, what can you chat in the chat? Can you capture what percentage of your time do you see that you're able to put your attention on your biggest intentions or your important intentions? Okay, everybody, if you can take a moment and in your chat capture, or you can, if you want to speak up, that's also great. Capture what percentage of your time are you able to spend on your intention? That you have your attention on the intention, right? Okay, great. Somebody's saying 1%, somebody's saying 60%, 50, 40, 30. Some is variable. Okay, good. Some few moments. Many of you are realizing not sufficient. 10, 20%. Okay, great. Okay, so thank you. Now, before we go ahead, let me see if you would like to ask any questions, or if some of our participants would like to share anything here, right? So let's open the space for everybody to participate. So if you're a guest here and you would like to ask a question or make a comment, do that. If you are a participant, you want to ask a question or you want to share, make a comment, go ahead and do that. Yes, Premas. Welcome, right?
So my name is Yogendra.
Yogendra. Okay.
So ideally, you would like to have complete attention 100% of the time.
Right.
But I feel that that is available or there only for small amount of time. So that's what I would say. Instead of defining it more as a how much percent, I would say 100%, but not for a sufficient amount of time.
Yeah, which is what I meant in terms of time. How much are you be able to put our attention on the intention, right?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Yogendra. Thanks for sharing. Thank you. If you don't mind, I just kind of I put your name on the screen. I hope that's okay. Otherwise, we end up calling you by the name that we see on the screen. Right? So that's right. Thank you very much. Okay, somebody else? Questions, comments, what ifs?
Yeah, I find that the attention to the intention on my part has always been on the lower side. But I find that in these COVID times, that has kind of become worse.
Oh, it has become worse. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So I think what has happened is that the structure, the routine that you had when you were actually operating in the outside world, by that having been taken away, I find that that has actually impacted the attention even more than before.
I understand. Because earlier you had some occasions and some structures created to put your attention on the intention. And some of those structures may have been dismantled right now.
Dismantled, disrupted,
yes, I can understand.
and yes, and since everybody around you is also going through that same,
yes,
earlier, you know, there would be other things that would push you into focusing on it maybe. Now that push has also kind of become less. So
I understand. And maybe there was a team which was also working on some of those intentions, and those teams are also not able to put the attention together. Is that what you're pointing at?
So it's, yeah, so it's an internal and external push that, you know, is both have been impacted.
I understand.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Thank you.
Manoj.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah, Joanna. Yeah.
So I actually experienced the opposite to what Sananda shared during this COVID. I find that the fact that there are so many things, we're limited in an environment where we can't do this, we can't do that. There's a lockdown here, you can visit friends, you can't, you know, all of that. It actually has removed a lot of the distractions that I had put in my life. And what I experience is I begin to really get present to my life as it was, what was working, what wasn't. And also I had a chance to really look at the intentions that I have for my life. And as a result, I am not able to put more attention on these intentions because I'm more present to them. So the part that, you know, COVID has given me a chance to be more present to my life has been really quite empowering.
I agree. If I were to look at it for myself personally, in the early days of COVID, I saw that, some of the distractions went away and we were actually able to focus on the intention. And then in between, my father fell ill and he had to be hospitalized. And so 1 month I was heavily distracted. Whatever time I was not dealing with the hospital case, I was able to put substantial amount of the intention. But that challenge that kind of had a big impact. Now that of course he's back and healthy and safe home, again now I'm able to put in more attention on my intention. So I'm sure all of us are going through different transitions. But it is an important dimension. I think it's a good question to ask maybe once or twice a day. Okay, how much of my attention, what is my intention? First thing, I think it's a good question to ask, what's my intention, right? And is it a ego intention or is it a eco intention? Like, is it about me or small group of people or is it about a bigger group? Good. And then the other question you could ask is, okay, how much attention do I have? Can I increase my attention on my intention? So that might be a good question as maybe a daily practice for a couple of us, for some of us. Okay, any other question, any other comment before we move ahead?
Manoj, I thought this question was coming to my mind. We could ask them, what is the advantage of an ego intention and disadvantage of an ego intention? And then what is the advantage of an eco intention?
Okay, can you make a note of that question? We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good, I think. Okay.
Manoj, I have a question.
Yeah, Chaitanya.
This is very interesting, you know, in terms of how much attention you're putting on the intention. So is there a structure that you recommend, or do you have a structure to help you in this, or do you recommend some structure?
Yes, and what I'm just looking at what we create in the course, right, as a recommended structure, is once so it comes up in the second half of the course, if you can say, but once people have gone through the earlier level of transformation that needs to happen, and then they come to a place where they create eco intention. Then the next thing that we recommend is to create a core team. A core team is a team of people who are passionate about the intention, right? And then they're not just there to help you, they're not your assistants or they're like that, but it's a core team equally passionate about the intention. And then one of the things that we recommend is to create a regular communication structure, like maybe once a week or so within the core team, where the core team comes together in some form, right, online, offline, and invest an hour or a little bit more, fully focusing on the attention on that intention. Right? Now, when the core team does that, even though they do it just once a week, right, that then helps you to create, expand it ongoingly. Right? So, two things that I think the Chaitanya they have helped is, one is you create a core team of people who are passionate about the same or similar intention, right? And second is then create a team, create a time where the whole core team as a team together invest time on their intention, put their attention on the intention. Does that clarify, Chaitanya?
Yeah, yes, yeah, that clarifies most of it. But I had another question actually related to the same thing. So when you're not meeting the core team, what structure do we put in place on a daily basis? One of the things you said is, twice a day, ask the question, how much attention do you have on your intention? Is there any other structure we can put?
I would suggest don't create alternative structures. Okay, Chaitanya, given that I know you, okay, my coaching to you is, there is no shortcut for creating a core team. Okay, so if you are finding a shortcut for creating a core team so that you can be strong on your own, then don't find that shortcut. Okay.
All right.
Does that make sense, Chaitanya?
Yeah. Thank you.
So make sure that you create the core team of people who are passionate, connected to that intention.
Manoj, this is Sanjay.
Yes.
And,
yes, Sanjay. Welcome.
Thing, which I'd like to share.
Yeah.
Over and above what you are saying, and also responding to Chaitanya, but over and above what you're saying, is one thing which I did get a little bit of success was creating a kind of a compelling dashboard of the, call it intention, or like the creating a kind of parameters, break down the intention, or what we can call a very sharp shared vision. You can call shared vision of the core team, shared vision, or whatever it is.
I agree with you. I agree. Dashboards would definitely help.
And then open every meeting or open everything with just a flash. People are coming inside the meeting or whatever. That intention dashboard is always flashed, or the needle is always flashed, that yellow, red, green. As where are we? So everything that happens in the team, everything that happens in the organization is all around that we can do 10 things, but is the needle on the intention moving? If it is not moving, let's go back to the drawing board and question ourselves. Whatever act that we are doing, if it is not pushing the intention, then let's just question. Maybe still it has a value, but let's question that. So I don't know.
True.
But I thought I'll just share that. To bring slight objectivity to the subjectivity.
Complete. I agree. And having dashboards and all that are definitely very useful. So visuals impacts, that is always very useful. What I was trying to say to Chaitanya is, do all that once you create a core team. But first thing is to create a core team. Yeah. Because I'll just connect, Sanjay. I think you've given me a good entry point into other thing. There is we have been fed on this whole thinking of leadership as an individual phenomena. So one of the things that we have discovered as we have been engaging with this theory and the work that we have been doing in the last 5 years, that has damaged people and organizations and society phenomenally. I think it has created some of the biggest nonsense on the planet, because we have been so programmed to think of, oh, this person is a leader, this person is not a leader, and then we have to follow the leader, and there's the whole the whole mess that gets created. Because the moment you look at leadership as an individual phenomena, in another way, you're getting married to the ego part of it. Right? So, but if you can shift from the individual as a leader to the collective as a leader, right? The team as a leader, the collective as a leader, which is what we focus on in this workshops and consulting that we do, it creates a very big difference. It's like an entrepreneur. Uh, if you look at take a medium-sized entrepreneur and he has 100 people in the company, and if you ask him how many brains are working in the company and how many hearts are working in the company, he would not have pretty answer, because most people have been disengaged. Instead of this whole thing of, oh, some people are leaders and leaders as individuals, as leaders, that whole phenomenon, right? Thanks, Sanjay. I think that is an important element that I intended to bring in. Okay, so we have covered
can I
yes,
ask you
Piyush,
a
go
question?
ahead. Yes, Piyush.
Manoj, when we are creating the core team, we ended
Yes.
up creating a core team which were not uh, only from one organization. This core team belongs to multiple organizations, maybe around 7 people now.
Yeah.
And we are finding that different organization people, they are doing the different parts of the same objective.
Right.
Intention. So if we bring them together and discuss the same thing like dashboard, like Sanjay was talking, we find that they don't find the relevance of it. So we end up doing this meetings, core team meetings in small fragments. Do you think it is a good idea, or are we missing on the big wheel because of grand wheel because of that? Because the core team meetings is getting happening in fragments now.
I didn't get you fully. So let me tell you what I understood, and then you tell me what I missed out. Okay. So what I understood is that you have a core team which is constituted of people from different companies, right? And then you saying that if we are working together in the core team meetings and you have dashboards, there is some kind of a misalignment or a gap. Are you seeing, or are you saying that that is getting it too regimented or structured for the grand will to show up? Is that what you're saying? Can you clarify further?
Let me go back to our intention. Intention is to sell 1 million policies, insurance policies at the bottom of pyramid.
Right.
This policy consist of education, health, and women health. Now,
Right.
typically, core team which is working on women health has no relation with the core team working with education. Which means there are people who are different organizations. So organizations who is supporting on the education is not the organization which is supporting on the women health. So bringing them together, have a common meeting doesn't help us. And so what happens? The core team meeting is happening on fragments. So
but, are they core team meeting? Are they the core team for this intention?
Yes, because if education is one of the part of it, so they are part of the core team which is focusing
No.
on education.
I think you are looking at what I'm understanding, Piyush, and correct me if I'm missing out something. I think you are looking at an operations team versus a core team. Okay. A core team is a team which is passionate about the intention. There's no gap in the alignment on the intention. And what you seem to be talking about is that in the execution piece, right, there are different people who may be playing different roles and they may not see the big picture together. So I will address that, but is my interpretation here correct? That you're
I think
mixing a core team versus a operation team?
Yes, what you said is right. Probably I was getting mistaken on that. Thank you.
Yeah, and then of course the operations team also needs to be enrolled on the big picture, but the core team, see, how you constitute the core team is very important, right? And they need to be all people. Like we recommend a 4 or 5 people core team, they all need to be all completely passionate about the intention, right? And you will have in organizations like yours and many other big projects, you will have multiple execution teams, helping you with executing different parts of the game. Right? Thanks, Piyush. Thank you. So let me just do a recap, and by checking out how many of you remember what we have covered till now. So what was the first principle that I addressed? Somebody can put it in the chat. What was the first principle that I talked about? Okay, let's have a couple of people respond. What was the first principle that I talked about? Okay, well, good. I see 4 or 5 answers. Good. So straight learning from the future as it is emerging instead of just learning from the past. Right? Thank you very much. You got it right. What was the second principle?
I think Sanjay just said, yeah.
Sanjay has moved one step ahead. Okay, good. The second principle, again, many of you got it correct. Thank you very much. Is shifting the thinking from ego to eco, the boundary to and the exclusive to being inclusive. Right. Thank you. And the third principle, somebody? The third principle. Third principle. Okay. Third principle. Okay. I think here some people are missing out. Okay. Yes. The third principle was turning the camera around. Right. We have been all focused on looking at outside and seeing what we see with regards to people and situations and challenges and opportunities, but to actually turn the camera around and look at ourselves from the eyes of the stakeholders. Right? That was the third principle. And the fourth one, which we were discussing. Okay, what is the fourth one? What's the fourth principle?
Blind spot.
Blind spot of leadership. Okay.
Of leadership.
Okay. Anybody remembers the whole quote? You deserve 2 extra stars if you can say the whole quote or write the whole quote.
Success of the intervention depends upon the interior condition of the intervener.
Wow, great. Thank you. The success of the intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. Okay. And then we were looking at 3 dimensions of the interior condition.
Yeah, but we spoke only about 2, the intention and the attention.
Perfect. Okay, good. So we are now going to look at the third one, right? So the first one was intention. And the question is, what's your intention? Is it an ego intention or is it a eco intention? Second thing we looked at is attention. How much of your attention and quality of attention that you have on the intention. So we can also call these 2 principles as quality of intention and quality of attention, right? And that connects us to the third piece. And the third piece is, the third dimension is called presence. Presence here is a combination of 2 words, the way we are using it. Is one is being present, like being in the present moment, being in the now, as we say, plus sensing. So present plus sensing. And okay, so 1 second. I think yeah, so presence is present plus sensing. So I think the first one we understand being in the present, being in the now, and then how well are we sensing? How well are we sensing people? How well are we sensing the situation? And how well are we sensing the future that wants to emerge? Right. So sensing is also part of the 3 basic competencies that we say. connected to the first point, which was learning from the future as it emerges. These three competencies are deep listening, sensing, and sense making. So you can say sensing from that perspective, right? How present you are and what is the level at which you are able to sense the situation, people, and most importantly, the future that wants to emerge. Okay. Okay. So now let's look at. We'll go deeper into this again as we go ahead. But let me introduce you one more principle here. So all of us want to, many of us want to have very good intentions and do some make a difference. We want to not only be successful, but also many of us know that life is much more fulfilling if you are contributing and making a difference on the planet. And a lot of other positive dimensions we have. But there is one big issue that stops many of us, and we call them three enemies. So the principle number 5 that I want to talk about is three enemies. Okay, and they are called in. First, I will tell you the acronym. They're called VOJ, VOC, and VOF. What we mean by VOJ is the voice of judgment. What is going on all the time when we are interacting with people, or even we are thinking about our intentions, or we're looking at our business plans or plans for life, or everywhere, all the time, 24/7. What's also affecting us is the voice of judgment. Judgment about ourselves, judgment about other people, judgment about the situation, the challenge, all of that. The second is the voice of cynicism. So, voice of judgment, the voice of cynicism, and the voice of fear. Vivek, you want to okay. So, Joanne, thanks. You're counting, capturing it on the chat for me. Thank you. So, voice of judgment, voice of cynicism. Cynicism, as most of us would understand, is we are clear nothing great is going to happen. And we are so clear that nothing great is going to happen that we would be almost willing to bet on that. So that's the whole voice of cynicism. When somebody comes up with some new ideas, when we hear something new, we're all like, ah, yeah, okay. Voice of cynicism is like living as if nothing is a miracle. Nothing extraordinary would be possible. Nothing really difference making would be possible. It's like the lukewarm response to everything in life. It's that which holds us back from giving 100% to anything. So that's the whole voice of cynicism at play. Right? And third, the biggest stop on the planet, I would say, is the voice of fear. Voice of fear keeps us stuck with the past, even when we know that what we are stuck to is not great. Even when we know that what we are stuck to is actually limiting ourselves and our lives. But we still remain stuck to the past because there's a whole fear of letting go of that past, letting go of the known, letting go of the comfort. So there's all those three voices coming into picture, and I think that it stops us from great leadership, that stops us from great life as a human being in all aspects of life. So what I would like to now do is to have uh, many of you share what do you see for yourself. Where do you think this voice of judgment, the voice of cynicism, and voice of fear could be affecting you as a leader or as a professional or as a person. And if you were to able to go beyond this voice of judgment, cynicism, and fear, what do you see would be possible? Okay, so let's see if you can unmute. Sorry, put your videos on and unmute and speak up, or if you want to do it on the chat, go ahead and do it on the chat. Tell us what you see from these three dimensions. How is the voice of judgment, cynicism, and fear impacting you, limiting you, right? And
Yeah, Manoj
or
bhai.
yeah, Hemendra bhai, go ahead.
How are you?
Very good. Welcome.
What I feel is from your point of view is that emotional quotient which plays a big role in the country like India gives the fear kind of the resistance to speak out openly and come across the solution. So that keeps us blocked with the situation and the process going on. That emotional quotient is playing more higher. That is my point of view.
If you don't put it into the category of emotional quotient, but if you actually just see it straight as fear, okay, we don't have to put it into any other category. Okay, there is a fear. The fear maybe of what I understand from your fear connected with what people will say, right?
Yes, yes.
Or fear connected with how I will look in front of others, what others will think of me, or how my image will get impacted, right? Yeah, that's all part of the fear.
Yes,
The
yes.
question is, what is the impact of that fear, voice of fear?
It's a straight
Nuksan kya ho
loss.
raha hai, right? What
Loss
is the
to you.
damage?
Yeah, loss to your thoughts and your process. Straight away loss. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. So
Okay,
let's
thank
have a
you.
couple. Yeah, and keep looking at it. Yeah. And then what is the loss for you as a leader and for your organization as a leader when you and your teams are affected by this voice of fear? Yeah.
You don't tend to take risks at all.
Yeah. And what is the impact of that?
And the loss therefore is your gain is directly proportional to the risk that you take.
So yes, so you lose opportunities, right?
Yes, yes.
And you also lose the opportunity to create something and be fulfilled by the creation of that. Yeah. Somebody else? What do you see?
Yeah, so I think all these three voices are, obviously limiting in nature.
Yeah.
Right, and they stop you from seeing the potential of anything. Yeah, and when you stop seeing potential in anything, then you do not explore any further.
Yeah.
So therefore you get stuck and remain in the present, and also this has impact on all the people around you, the community around you, because you are actually also communicating this limitation to others and spreading that vibe around.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get that. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Somebody else? Yeah, doctor, go ahead.
Yeah, so I see a connection between when you operate from the ego, when all these three voices and the ego is very closely related.
Very good. Yes. When you're worried about yourself, or when you're worried about
loss of anything to self, or loss of whatever. So there's a very strong connection between operating from ego and
yes, and the control and the grip that the voices of judgment, cynicism, and fear have on you. Right?
Manoj, can I intervene?
Sure.
Yeah, actually, I think one of the things that'll happen when you participate in the course is you shift from understanding all the principles to actually allowing the principles to impact you and open up your sensing and your seeing. So you start to see the world differently. And in order to illustrate that, I want to invite people who have done our programs. If you can share with people, what was the actual impact? Not an explanation disconnected with that and therefore that happened and emotional this and that. No. Oh, I realized that I hadn't been listening to my wife for a long time. And I always thought it's because she was not listening to me. And when I realized that, I actually started to listen to her. And I was shocked with what I heard. So I'm inviting people who have done the program, who've had these kind of insights to share.
Most of the thing is very beautifully covered by Ferdy and other people. Just wanted to bring out another angle. Is
Sanjay, can you hold for a moment, because I really do want my participants to share.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'll give
no problem.
You can speak in a moment. You can speak in a moment. I really want. See, I am not attempting to get you to understand anything. In fact, I'm trying to destroy the attempt to understand so that you start to experience something. And so I am putting my participants a little bit in the spot here to actually see what they can come up with. And we'll have you give your input in a bit, Sanjay, okay? Joanne, you want to go?
Yeah, I'll start. Otherwise, I'll fall asleep. I've been on a course since 10 a.m. Melbourne time, and it's now almost 10 p.m. Melbourne time, so I need to talk. So, yeah, what can I say? Cynicism, fear, judgment, ever present in my life. And as far as I'm concerned, I've gone through a second divorce, survived a car crash, lost my job, now COVID, and in the process of rebuilding my life. Talk about cynicism, fears, and judgment, full on, all the time. And until I did this program, I didn't have a way of really dismantling and dealing with all of those voices in a way that's empowering. It feels very reactionary. I'm always reacting to my ex-husband, money problems, this and that, and it's just overwhelming. But when I have this education in my hands, all of a sudden I could go, I recognize that. That's me being judgmental. I recognize that. That's me being cynical about life never ever be good again, and all of that. And when I'm able to acknowledge all of this, I actually get to a point where I could look at it and face it with courage. And the courage comes from purely being able to identify what it is that I'm going through. It's given me a whole different place to stand when I'm looking at this new life that I'm trying to build, and just getting present to what my intentions are in life. In spite of all this, it feels like wave after wave after wave of non-stop, I don't know what you call it. I'm not a surfer, so I can't surf. Yeah, I just keep crashing in the waves, right? Yeah. And I really now, I'm standing on much firmer ground. I can look at my life and I go, I know what my intention is. My intention is having a great life, contributing to mankind, doing what I can. I must have gone through all this for a reason, and I will use this to make my life great again. And right. What does that look like? I don't know, but I am sure going to try and stay hopeful and do what I can and rebuild it to the best of my ability. So it's given me a sense of courage and just the willingness to really live my life, as opposed to hiding and playing small and pretending that I will never be good again. So yeah, it's given me a whole lease of life. So I really want to thank this education for creating that space for me.
Joanne, thank you so much for sharing that. It brings it alive for all of us. Let's have, Manoj, you want a couple more people to share?
Yeah. Piyush, you wanted to share?
AD wants to share as well.
Okay. Good afternoon, good evening to to all of you. My name is Piyush.
Piyush, can you do something about your volume? Can you increase your volume?
Is it better now?
Yeah, much better. Much better. Thank you.
See, when I went through the program, one big change which happened in me was my listening. Initially, see, being an Indian sitting in Nigeria, being the only expat in the entire organization, it was always very difficult to connect with people. And when I went through the class, this program, when Ferdy and team was Manoj and Vivek were covering the empathy walk, I said, okay, let me try this. And in a span of 1 week to 10 days, I tried around 50 or 60 empathy walk. I was talking to anybody and everybody in the organization whom I was either managing them directly or indirectly. And first few empathy walks were very awkward. After talking 3-4 lines, I did not know what even to speak, forget about listening to them. And slowly, by the 10th person, I started becoming a little more free speaking to them and realized people who were so abstain to speak to me because they thought I was an outsider, they thought I had a particular way of working. Even I had a bad way of working also, which means I had a listening problem. You speak half the sentence, I will interpret what you're saying and start talking. With this practice, I realized people initially were talking artificial. After third, fourth, fifth random discussions, they started opening up. I realized how many people have having their personal problems, how many people, what excites them. All those things starts opening up during this program, during this empathy walk which was happening. I'm really grateful to the gurus who are sitting here, and they opened me and gave me a very different line of thinking. I keep on coming for this program every time Ferdy and Manoj and Vivek come up with a introduction class or any advanced class, because every time I come sit here, I learn a new principle, and I also listen to them because there are some principles which I know. When they talk again, it comes to my top of my mind and start going back to practice. So that's why I keep on coming here, listen to all of you, and this is what is really helping me. Thank you so much.
That's brilliant.
Thank you. Brilliant. Yes. Okay, Eddie, did you want to share? You're on mute, Eddie.
Hi. I work with the parents, and after doing the program, it was so clear to me that what is really stopping me. A common issue with most parents was that my child doesn't listen to me. And when I say child, I'm talking about children up to the age of 85.
Good one.
So, they would invariably have that question that I want him to take this career and he's looking at that career, and I want him to be a family man and he's going and spending time elsewhere and stuff like that. Now, I used to wonder whether I can be honest with them, because the voice of fear was, if I ask some very kind of sensitive questions, they might get offended. And if they get offended, they're going to say wrong things about me, and other people who are lined up may come with a bias. So the question I wanted to ask them was, you're grumbling so much. Have you ever thought for a moment that why should your child listen to you? And then I gathered courage and I said, whatever it is, let me get beyond my voice of fear. And it worked very well in most cases, because when they began to really explore and examine that, and they would come up with some things like, no, because I've given him birth, and then they would feel stupid about it. And, it really worked. But at the same time, some people did get offended that what kind of a stupid question is that? Obviously, he's my child. Whom will he listen to? He has to listen to me. I am the person who's experienced. I am the one who brought him up. I'm the one who's accomplished, not him. And then I asked another question. But do you think you're a bit out of date? Or that was really more offensive. But just to say that recognizing this and looking at it like, I got it like, if I really want to make a difference, then I have to be able to get over my voice of fear. I have to get over about my voice of cynicism that parents who have learned things from their parents are not going to easily change. They will continue to do whatever they're doing because they're so righteous about it and they're so resigned about it that children don't listen, that these new gen guys are all ta-ta-ta. So thanks very much to this program for giving me this clarity and courage to actually go ahead and pursue my intention and my mission. Thanks.
Fantastic, Eddie. Thank you very much. And just for some of you who might have missed, Eddie is conducting workshops for parenting, and he supports parents in this whole journey of parenting, and he's based in Bombay. Yeah. Okay.
Can
One
I
more
want to share
person to.
something.
Yeah. This is
Vivek,
Shiv.
go ahead.
I
Yes,
just
Shiv.
want to share in my last 2-3 years, I've been meeting so many CEOs, owners, business owners, leaders. The biggest complaint has been that the people who are working for them, they don't take responsibility, they don't take initiative, they don't speak up. And the question really is that if you have an organization full of people who have a fear, who have a voice of fear, who have a voice of judgment and voice of cynicism, and you're sitting and hoping that they will start to speak up and communicate with you, there is no oxygen for them to speak. There's no space for them to speak. I know myself that when I go into a bad mood or something like that, my son or my daughter would, for a day or two, try not to speak to me or not try and get into those serious conversations just because there's no space. The voice of fear is very, very huge, and it has a massive impact on our lives. And I'd like you to see that for yourself. Like, where is your voice of fear holding you, and where is it holding people in your life who you lead?
Yeah, thanks, Vivek. Shiv Kumar, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, sure. Won't take much of your time, just a quick one. So
ahead.
when I attended this, I think when this program was offered sometime, I think a couple of years back, Jan 18, if I'm not mistaken, which is when I had the privilege of joining the program, was that just few days into the program, it completely changed my perspective. So what resonates to me, what resonates fiercely is the voice of judgment, for that matter, or even voice of cynicism. I had quit my corporate job and I had just enrolled for my doctoral research program. And what was happening is that once you're on the other side of the fence, as a student, then you're actually scouting for organizations to do research. And it's not an easy thing unless and until you have some strong references. And I was just struggling, and I was also facing is my own internal voice, which was not used to rejections, for that matter, or even put in a request for someone, stand in a queue, mujhe please will you give me an opportunity to do research in a particular department, and so on. So there was this ego bit. I was coming in from an ego bit. What is in it for me, and so on. Few days into this the Emerging Future program, the moment the ego into the shifting ego to the eco completely transformed my perspective, right? Then I started looking at research. Then I started, in fact, when I started approaching organizations, right? Notwithstanding, I mean, the spirit of sin, I mean, not the spirit, the cynicism or the judgment, which was completely conditioned within me, completely changed. And I started talking to organizations in terms of my research on empowering leadership. How does it change them? How does it change their own employee communities, and so on and so forth? And honestly, that also energized me when I was having those conversations. And interestingly, the outcome started becoming positive. In fact, I started landing with organizations who were actually queuing for me to get a free research done in their outfits. The outcome was, of course, I completed my program successfully. And the most interesting takeaway was just a change of perspective, right? And when it energizes you completely, the future that emerges, it's the future that emerges is something which you yourself are creating. And it is getting created. I mean, it is like a cycle which continues. And that's my huge takeaway from that program. And I'm delighted to be here, Manoj and Freddie. Thanks to you.
Welcome, Shiva. Shiva, where are you based?
Bombay.
Bombay. Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you. And Weng wants to share, and then we are going to move on. So over to Weng.
Hi, good evening. My name is Weng. I'm from the Philippines. So last weekend, I think we had this workshop, and then I realized that the voices of judgment is something we let go every day. Like it's always an opportunity to take a look at the quality of my life and ask, what voice of judgment can I let go today? So the next day after that workshop, there's an event in the office wherein every time this event happened, I need to prepare and, make the most out of my preparation to make sure that, I perform well. But then that Monday, I realized, okay, Weng, that's your voice of judgment. You know this. You got this. So I did not prepare anything, but I'm so present to my intention. Like, what is your intention for this program? And just really jump. And then at the end of the program, I was asking my manager, so how was it? What happened to you? She said. And so why? She said, you were perfect. Like all the things to improve, do differently, it all disappeared. And I realized I let go of my voice of judgment and really went to the program coming from, this is in contribution to all the people who will listen to me. So it's an everyday experience. Like every day it's an opportunity. Okay, for today, if I'm going to improve my relationship, what voice of judgment can I let go of? What fear can I recognize so that I can be courageous? So yeah, that's my share.
Very good. Brilliant. Brilliant.
So Weng, you work with which organization?
I work for insurance.
Insurance.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So we covered 5 principles today, and we will be covering one more. But let's just do an oral recap of the 5. I know most of you did
Manoj, I realized we stopped Sanjay from contributing something. So Sanjay, if you want to say whatever you wanted to say earlier.
Actually, my apologies. I didn't realize you're waiting for answers. But mostly the flavor has been captured. Just in 2 words, I would say that I was trying to look at unconscious bias, bringing in the concept of unconscious bias, which is a byproduct of experience and the emotions one has gone through in life right from childhood, which starts building our lenses. That's the only point that I was bringing in, but then it has been captured very well in the kaleidoscope. In fact, I was so absorbed in every story, right from Joan, Chong, and Weng,
Right, yeah.
AD, everybody. So thank you very much. I think the same thing comes out, and of course the solution, I'm sure Manoj will come in the solution of how do we address it. So thank you very much.
Okay, great. All right, Manoj, over to you.
Okay, so
and do you know how much you're keeping track of time, right? Because I haven't been.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So we'll be closing in the next approximately 25 minutes. 27 minutes. Okay, so let's just do a fast oral recap. What was the first principle? We'll only have one person speak of that. Okay, because then I'm going to ask a question. Okay. So what was the first one? Somebody just unmute and shout out.
Learning from the future as it emerges.
Yeah, learning from the future as it emerges versus being stuck to the past. Right? Second one.
Ego to eco.
Ego to eco. Going beyond the boundaries and being inclusive. Okay. Third.
Turning the
Turning
camera
the
around.
camera around.
Turning the camera around. Very good. Instead of just being obsessed about what we see, turning around and looking at how others see us and how others see us as part of the system that we represent. Fourth one.
Blind spot of leadership.
Yeah. And the quote once more, somebody, except Dr. Kalindi.
The success of the intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joanne. So success of the intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. And there were three elements of this interior condition. What were they? Somebody? First one?
Intention, attention, and presence.
Yeah, intention, attention, and presence. You look at whether it's a ego intention or is it eco intention. By the way, just that one question can be life transforming. Okay? Each one of these principles in itself can turn around life. And the second is, of course, the attention. What is the level of attention, the quality of attention we have on our intention? And third is the presence, how much we are in the present and how much are we able to sense. And the fifth principle, which was these three enemies, which are also your enemies to being present. Okay, so what were the three enemies?
Voice of judgment, voice of fear, voice of cynicism.
Voice of cynicism.
Yeah, voice of judgment, voice of cynicism, and voice of fear. Now, when you look at all of these five things together, you can start looking at how they impact your leadership, and if you were to go beyond them, and how would it positively impact the leadership? Right? So that's what I would like you to reflect on before I reach the sixth principle, and I'm going to also connect that with my own experience and sharing from my own experience here. So we start. So Ferdy, myself, and Vivek, we come with a background where we have been involved in personal transformation and organizational transformation for a cumulative period of around 100 years. And each one of us would have worked with thousands and thousands of people, right? And in the Indian counting system, it would go to lakhs also. And then we decided to work together to bring this possibility. And then last 5 years been working together. I think for us to, given each one of us has been a leader in our own world, for us to work so smoothly together for the last 5 years and build collaboratively, that itself would be a big, I would say, breakthrough from using all of these principles, learning from the emerging future, ego to eco, turning the camera around, right? Each moment it would have been difficult without those principles. Then, of course, when we are conducting these workshops and we have leaders and people in their own rights, right, highly successful, highly accomplished people, and then we are creating this for them, that wouldn't have been possible without these principles. The work that we do in organizations, again, wherever we are doing consulting, those are all successful organizations who want to go to the next level. Again, to work with them and to create these conversations with them in a way that they can implement it and turn around their organizations, it has required us to operate from these principles. And many importantly, there are a couple of partners that we created who are associated with us in different forms. Two partners very clearly I know from my voice of judgment about them. I would have never thought of having any relationship with them beyond courtesy. It would have been, yeah, we would have courtesy, but we would never have thought of they could become my partners and we could be actually doing strategic discussions together. Right? So I had to suspend my voice of judgment, voice of cynicism, more, not voice of fear here. and which is where I want to connect to the last principle of today's conversation is you have these three enemies. You have these three friends can make a big difference for you positively, right? So we talked about voice of judgment, and the friend that can allow you to go beyond this voice of judgment is what we call as curiosity. So when I have that, oh my God, this person they can't do it. Oh no, it's not possible. Oh no, what he's saying is not valid. And if I can suspend that voice of judgment and bring in its curiosity, okay, let me figure out what is he saying. Let me at least understand fully. Let me at least listen fully. Forget understanding. First thing is let me just listen fully. Can I suspend my expert voice for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and listen to somebody and see what they have to say and listen. So that's where the whole beginning of the game was, the curiosity. And then the second one required was a little bit more difficult because it was not about my head and my brain, but it's about opening our heart. So we call it compassion, like seeing the world from other people's eyes, seeing yourself from other people's eyes, seeing situation from their eyes, even though you know what you see is perfect, you're letting go of that and actually willing to see things differently. So the whole compassion, and I think that has helped me in the last 4 years to also be a better father, especially dealing with my, not dealing with, I would say supporting my teenage daughters going through all the exams and this and that, and of course other challenges over and above the professional life. I think that has been a big contribution. And then yes, the voice of fear. And I have always been like, oh, I don't have fear. But then I realized it's not about fear like the big things, but the fear of letting go of what we have always known, what I have always known as the right way to do things, or the safe way to do things, or like that, the whole comfort. And to be able to let go my way and allow some new ways of doing things, new ways of doing business, new ways of anything to emerge. Right? So this is the uh, courage. So the three C's, the three friends that we want to leave you with here is what we call as curiosity, compassion, and courage. Right? Curiosity enough to suspend your voice of judgment, compassion enough to go beyond your voice of cynicism, and courage enough to go beyond your attachments of the past and the voice of fear. Okay, so that's what I wanted to create for you in this, and I do believe that each one of us, the more time you spend, either individually or in discussing with somebody else on the six principles, every time you do that, I'm sure it will create some value, some new insight, some new opening for you. Okay. Uh, so that's the main conversation of the seminar today. And what I also want to tell you about is a little bit again about ourselves. As I said in the earlier session, we have two parts of our operations. One is the global transformation consulting, wherein we work on organizational transformation and we do this leadership work and all that. And second is we also have another same GTC, but now it's called the Global Transformation Champions, wherein we are evolving new offerings more for the individual transformation and the social transformation. And we are doing some experiments on that, and we'll be talking more about it in the future. Uh, so uh, that's so. If you would like to know more about how we work in the organizations, you can get in touch with us. We also have an open workshop that we are going to conduct from 15th of September, and that is coincidentally also our 15th online batch. This is conducted on Zoom video conference. It's a 3-month course. It is 3 months is 10 sessions. Each session is of 2.5 hours. This one is India timing 7:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Vivek. Is it Tuesdays, right? Can I just cross check? I think 15th September, most probably it is Tuesdays. It will be on every Tuesday
Tuesday.
yeah, evening. Uh, so we would like to invite you also to explore those courses. Plus, we do similar work in house. So if you would be interested to know more about that, we can be in communication. Okay. So. Yeah, and before we wrap up for the session, let me open up the space for everybody to share what are you taking home out of this interaction today. What uh, what did you learn? What is opening up? Anything you would like to share? And this is open for everybody to share. Okay. Jump in. You can unmute and speak up, or if you want to prefer on the chat, do it. Both ways are open. Go ahead, Prakash. Yes, please.
Yeah, so my name is Prakash, speaking from Bombay. And what I really see that there are a lot of things I have learned today. A lot of things can impact my life in personal way and also in the company I work. Especially the attention part, I'm not aware actually that this is what my intention is, and there is no way I'm aware of my even intention many times. I set with something and then the daily work takes over.
Yes.
In minutes of the time it goes over. Even if I sit with the directors and look at the intentions, then we forget even there and look at the daily operations. So that I'm taking a bigger piece that every time I have to be aware about my intention. That core thing where intention can be always discussed, clarified, so that team can move, organization can move. A lot of learning. Thank you so much,
Fantastic, Prakash. Very well said. Thank you very much. Thank you. Somebody else? I invite everybody to jump in. Okay.
Baswa
yes,
here.
Basava. Yeah, Basava.
I have attended several sessions like this, but this appeared totally new and fresh because the dreams which I have, you have self-confidence, and I got definitely I can do whatever I am dreaming with core team, with stakeholder interview, empathy. They are suspending 3 enemies and having the friendship with 3 friends. Like
Curiosity, compassion, and courage.
Yeah, curiosity, compassion, courage. They are again instilled. I lost the octopus hold, and I am totally free to express myself, and have a lot of peace of mind. Like that. Thank you very much for the great session.
Welcome, Basava. Yes, Professor Mishra.
Good evening, all of you. It is one kind of a very good seminar. So, missing peace in leadership. Next time we will discuss. We should discuss how to manage conflict management in leadership, and also how to get peace. PEAC, peace in management, peace in leadership.
Yes. Yes, and a starting point of managing conflict would be getting aligned on the intention.
Yes, intention, but now in leadership, the leadership has to lot of things for progress, but progress side by side, managing the conflict of interest in the movement, in the direction.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it is okay, sir. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it is okay. That's
You're saying something else?
No, I think he's finished.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Yogendra, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, so basically turning the camera around. I mean, almost all the time you are viewing it from your angle. And you don't know what the person in front of you is thinking about. So it
How are they
makes an
seeing you and
important,
how are they
yeah.
seeing
So you don't
whole
really
situation?
bother to think about it.
Yeah.
And I think this is definitely something that you should consider. And then you will understand their reaction, what they are talking about, because how they perceive you, how they look at you. Definitely this is one, I mean, of course, all the points are learning, but this struck me as something probably which I was not looking at previously.
Great. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for sharing, Yogendra.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, it's been a wonderful session. I think each of these principles are extremely of themselves. And the thing is that, you know, what surprised me is that how much of it is also tied to what I am currently doing, which is coaching.
Yes.
A lot of this is applied in coaching.
Completely.
So it just reinforces all that. And what I really, actually, for me, what was new was, not new actually, but what adds more value than the rest is the fact about, you know, the emerging future. Which is something that I deal with a lot in my, you know, executive coaching practice, which is the kind of uncertainty that everybody is dealing with, and the fact that, you know, that nobody really has the answers. Yes, yeah. So it's been very, very valuable and insightful for me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, somebody else, take the opportunity. Don't wait for Diwali or Christmas.
Manoj?
Venk, yes, Venk. And then Dr. Kalindi.
How would you articulate the eco intention of your business?
The way we articulate it is, yes, we articulate it as not just eco intention, that's our only intention, which is transforming the consciousness which businesses, society, and individuals operate. So that's our intention, transforming the consciousness with which the businesses, societies, and individuals operate. And then if you look at why we even thought of this kind of a session is also inside of that intention, because while we are doing good progress in the work we do in the organizations, if we want to transform society, it is not going to happen just by 25 people learning this new technology. Even 2,500 people won't be sufficient. It would be like the whole society has to get an access to this. So now we are working on how do we make this known and easily available to people all over the world. We are doing some work with education institutions. We are training teachers. We are also trying to train and certify professors so that they can take it to the students and their communities. So we want to really broad base and make it available all over. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Doctor, for asking that question.
Yeah, and I like the session a lot, especially the structure. Like, say, for instance, there are lots of things, partly from coaching, partly from systems thinking, but all that is so well put together, and the simplicity with which you really explained. So thank you so much, you know.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the appreciation.
I'll keep in touch with you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you. Venk?
That's exactly how it felt. Like the session today, it grounds it. Like, you know, we've been through the session, the course, but your session today, it's so grounding that I'm looking forward to applying each and every portion per day. Okay, for today, I'm going to be voice of judgment. So what voice of judgment can I listen to and put curiosity in? And then on the next day, okay, we'll go for voice of fear. Like, you know, it's clear how we can apply this in our everyday life, in everyday circumstances, relationship. Like, it's real.
Yes. And when just one idea crossed my mind, that you might be able to discuss with others, because if you make it simple, you can also discuss this with your colleagues and family and just make it available to people.
Yes, it's
What do
just
you
now.
think?
It's also now why I understand I'm so effective in our team meeting. I feel like I'm the peacemaker when two people are in conflict. It's always me who handles it, and then I realize it's because I always come from the eco.
Yes.
Like I'm looking at this as a whole. I know your point. I know your point, but we're one. So it's just now that that's why. Before.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
agree
Thank
with
you
you.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Somebody else?
Yeah, hi.
About 5 minutes. Yes, go ahead.
This is Vani. I
Yeah, Vani.
wanted to just clarify something. When you say learn from the future, so future as in the one that you are
Learn from the
intentionally
future that wants to emerge.
that wants to emerge.
Yes. So, unfortunately, we have been trained about creating futures. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the whole ego world. Right?
Yeah.
But if you try to create a future which is not in sync with the future that wants to emerge, it's like you're fighting the ocean. Right?
Yeah.
May not be the smartest thing to do every time. Right?
Okay.
But if you can sense the future that wants to emerge and like adjust your sails accordingly, you can then create your take your ship in the right direction. Right? So it's about sensing the future and creating your future, co-creating your future with your stakeholders in alignment with the future that wants to emerge. Now, that might
Okay.
be a little
So
long answer, but you will actually experience in the course that is possible.
okay. Just wanted to understand this from the perspective of that a company goal is mostly aligned towards from the basis of your personal goals. So
What is
does
your
that apply
business?
to? I'm trying to restart something. I have been on a long gap.
Okay.
So
Since we are a little short of time, Vani, can I
yeah.
request you to get in touch with Vivek or me after the call, after the course, either today or tomorrow? Yeah.
Yeah. So I can then maybe just put down this question to Vivek and maybe
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
connect.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thanks. Okay. 3 more minutes. Anybody wants to share? People who are not spoken at all, maybe you can unmute and speak, or open your video and speak, or you can mention it in the chat. Some of you are
3 minutes to
supposed to
go.
speak in the chat. Yes.
Should wind up.
Yeah. Okay, last chance. Anybody? Okay, great. So, Vivek and Ferdy, anything you want to say to wrap up the session? Over to you, Vivek.
Just great to have all of you on the call, participating, engaging in the conversation. Some of you had your videos off. Next time when you join a Zoom call, just keep it on so that we can see your beautiful faces. I mean, if anyone wants to be shy of how they look, let it be me. But you guys are so good looking and you're still hiding. So just stop hiding.
Okay, Ferdy, last thing.
Yeah, I really want to thank the people who participated in our programs and then shared here today, because it really brought the whole thing alive. Thank you for making such an enormous contribution to the participants, our guest here today. And all our guests, thank you for being here and thank you for being open and listening.
I just want to say hi to Brian Stallmuller, the founding CEO of Mission Control.
Oh,
Thanks for
welcome,
coming on,
Brian.
Brian. It's great to have you early morning wake up.
Thank
and
you
come
very
on the
much for
call.
being here.
Thank you. I just woke up and caught the tail end, so there's nothing for me to say that would be grounded, but sounded wonderful, and I'm planning to come back.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Ferdy, why don't you do the honors of closing?
Oh, everyone, thank you for being here, and we hope to see you around and participating in cohort 15. I think Vivek has sent out the brochures. I mean, attached the brochure to the chat, right? And you can download it. If you have any questions, ask us that. And see you around sometimes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Manoj. Thanks, Freddie. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.